so I'd like to talk a little bit about ideas and reality. Not in terms of the philosophy, but in terms of turning one practically into the other. Because there's a world of difference between coming up with an idea and then making it real. It may not be that the idea is a bad idea or a good idea. It's just that there's a huge difference between taking an idea and making it a real thing. And it takes a lot of work, and there are lots of reasons it takes a lot of work. Now here's a silly example. Say somebody rings me up and says, I tell you what, Rob, I've had this idea. And I go, oh yeah? And they go, yeah, let's end world hunger by lunchtime. And you think, well, that is certainly an idea. But the way of ending world hunger by lunchtime has so many challenges attached to it. It is in fact undoable. We just couldn't do it. We can't translate that idea into reality because the idea itself is far too nebulous. So the first thing they would need to do is focus down on the idea to create a set of sub-ideas that they would take steps towards saving world hunger. Now, that's a silly example, but somebody did write to me and say, tell you what, Rob, I've had this idea. I want to make a balloon out of a single layer of graphene. Now, that may or may not be doable as it happens, but the technical challenges and the physical challenges involved in doing something like that, well, they're just vast. To take an idea and turn it into an experiment takes a lot of work. To turn an experiment into a reality takes even more work. Say you want to make graphene oxide. Making graphene oxide involves handling concentrated acids, and we all know they're dangerous. But at the experimental level, you're only handling maybe 100 millilitres. So when you've finished and you want to clean up, well, you just chuck a bit of sodium carbonate in there to neutralise it, make some harmless salts and wash it down the sink. No problem. It's a different story if you have 100 gallons of acid. If you have 100 gallons of acid, well, you can't just neutralise that and chuck it down the sink because you'll kill all the wildlife for miles around. You have to do something else. It's even a challenge just to move 100 gallons of concentrated sulfuric acid, let alone stir it, neutralise it, clean it. All those are vast challenges because of the scale of what you're doing. It's just so much bigger. It makes it that much more difficult. Scale doesn't increase a problem in relation to its size, it increases problems in relation to the square of its size. They go up exponentially the bigger it gets. So there's a huge set of very simple problems that turn out to be extremely difficult to solve, just taking an experiment and making it big enough to become a reality. Now imagine the set of problems involved in just taking an idea and turning it into an experiment. To give you an example of that, we've just been doing a series of videos on heat tubes. Now, I had an idea and I turned it into an experiment, and what you see on YouTube is kind of like a 5-minute, 10-minute video maybe, where the experiment just runs in front of you. But what you don't see are the couple of weeks behind it and the practice it took to get that experiment right so that it worked on YouTube. For example, I fill the bottom of the tube up with a little bit of fluid and heat it to make a gas, so that when we put the cap on and it cools, we make a partial vacuum. And that just happens. But the first couple of times I did that, I did it wrong. I heated it too much in one spot, the whole thing bubbled and sprayed me with a layer of graphene water. I mopped my face and then got back to it and practiced again. Now there's a couple of things to take away from that. The first thing is that everything you're going to do is in fact a skill. There's a skill to absolutely everything. There's a skill to sweeping the floor. There's a skill to carrying a bucket. Watch a builder. Watch how he carries a bucket up some ladders. He doesn't just lug it up. He swings it onto his shoulder, he gets momentum, he puts it in a balance, and he can walk around all day long with a couple of sacks of cement on his shoulder because he has the skill to do it. And that takes practice to do. Even a simple task like carrying something or sweeping a floor takes practice. Even heating that water in the tube was a skill that took practice. And you don't see that. You just see the final end product, heating some water. The other thing to take away from that is there's a degree of failure involved in everything. Because in order to acquire a skill, you need to practice it. That means you need to fail and pick yourself up and do it again. So turning an idea into an experiment is going to require you to fail a number of times before you succeed. It's also going to require you to acquire a skill set that you probably don't have. Now, equally, I have to do that every time I do an experiment. I don't know what's going to be required. Some of the things that I've done I've never done before, some of the things I've done before. But each time I do an experiment, there are in fact a set of skills I have to acquire first, and that takes time. Now, it's great to have ideas, and you should have them every day all of the time. But after you've had those ideas, you need to focus down on them a bit. Now, there's lots of ways of focusing down. I have a particular way that works for me. It's just my way of doing things. I tend to focus on where I'm going with it. So the heat pipes, for instance, they're actually part of a project that I have in mind, and that's just the next step through that project. So it gives me focus and helps me break the idea down into little ideas that then become translatable into little experiments relatively easily. Other people have different ways, and they're as valid. So say, for example, you want to investigate a material where you want to know how it's going to respond in different conditions. Well, it becomes obvious then. You've got your heat, light, magnetic field, electric field, all kinds of things that you can pick out and then test that material under those given set of circumstances and see how it responds. Again, it's just a way of focusing down on the idea, so the idea is changing now from an idea into a partial reality that you can deal with. It's that old adage, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you turn them into burgers and you eat them one at a time. You can't do the whole thing at once. You have to focus, you have to subdivide and then work towards something. Otherwise, it will just stay a dream and an idea. My way of doing it is one particular way. There are plenty of ways of doing it. You pick the way that suits you, as it happens. I'm a very practical kind of guy. I tend to learn by doing things, and so working towards an end product is just good for me. There are other things that are good for other people depending on their view of the world, and it just depends on your view. How you feel more comfortable with things is what will determine the methodology of focusing down, but you need to focus down on your idea. So how do you do that? Well, if you're an idea generator, actually it's not that difficult, because you have your idea and then you need to focus down and break that idea down. So let's say your idea is to make a graphene balloon. Well, it's pretty obvious that if you want to make a graphene balloon, the first thing you need to know is how to make graphene, and the second thing you need to know is how to make a balloon. So you do your research. Now, your research doesn't consist of writing to somebody and saying, hey, tell me how to do that. Or even worse, writing to somebody and saying, hey, do that for me, please, so I can take the credit. That's just terrible. When you have an idea and you become aware of the things that you need to acquire to fulfill that idea, then you have to do your research. Now, it's called research. Research. Look again. So what you do is you look at what other people have been doing, and you take that on board and learn from them. So there's plenty of people making balloons, so you think, okay, I want to make a graphene balloon, okay, I need to make graphene, okay, I need to make a balloon, let's have a look at that. How do you make a balloon? Then when you research how to make a balloon, the first thing will probably come to mind is, crikey, that's big. And then you realise you're going to need a big building to do it in. This is not something you're going to do in your flat. So the first thing you're going to think about is getting hold of a building to do it in. The next thing you do, you have a look at graphene and you find out how to actually make it and what's involved in making graphene. And you think, well, a little bit of graphene just takes a few milliliters of acid. A lot of graphene is going to take several hundred gallons and a bomb-proof building. Maybe I'll do a small weather balloon instead of a big balloon, and we'll call that a proof of concept. Nothing wrong with that. That's an iterative process where you have your idea, you break it down, you have a look by your research, you realise a problem involved in what you're attempting to do, and you go back on yourself to modify your idea in light of what's doable. And that iteration, that going back and moving through again, is a very valuable process for turning your idea into reality. Now, the thing about all of this stuff is it takes a long time to do. It's a lot of work to do. But if you want to turn an idea into reality, another thing you have to take on board is you're going to be involved in work. There's no getting away from that work. I get a lot of people writing to me saying, will you do this for me, please? And I write back going, no. And there are good reasons I write back going, no. Because if you don't involve yourself in that work, you have no real appreciation of the problem that's actually involved. And you have to go through that iterative process to get a good handle on what it is you're actually doing. You have to do it. You do it, you know it. You won't know it unless you do. Now, I once taught somebody to draw, and drawing in concept is really easy. You take a pencil, you take a bit of paper, you make a small mark on it. Easy. Now all you have to do is make lots of those marks in the right direction, with the right pressure, and you'll make a drawing. And that's in concept all there is. Take that concept and try to do a good drawing. You'll see immediately the difference between an idea and reality. It takes practice. One of the things that does drive me nutty is that idea of how to draw is really easy to understand. But when you tell people how to do something, they go, yeah, I know. But they've never done it. And if they've never done it, they don't know. And they tell you that they do, and you know that they don't. So doing it is a key to this sort of stuff. You have to do it. Asking other people to do it for you is learning nothing. So I really encourage people to do it for themselves. If you do it for yourself, you'll learn a tremendous amount. You try to get other people to do it for you, you learn absolutely nothing, and you're wasting your time. You'll never turn that idea into reality, because you'll never get hold of that idea. How to turn your idea into reality? Well, have your idea. Focus down on it. Do your research. Re-look at your idea. Acquire the skill set that you're going to need. And then realise that the problems you think you're going to have probably aren't, and the problems you thought were going to be easy are probably going to be difficult. But they're going to be lots of problems. And as I say, turning an idea to reality is a huge amount of work. You're not going to get away from that. You're going to have to do the work. And that's one of the big things. So I hope this was of interest to you, and thank you very much for watching.